Hi, my name is Dianna Hobbs. Welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, I'm so happy to have you back. And if this is your first time, then welcome. I hope that you'll subscribe. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up below. Today is going to be really special. My first vlog ever was uploaded a few days ago. I took you to Orlando where I had to do a taping for a PBS special on faith and guns that airs May 10th on PBS. I hope that you'll tune in. So it was really unique. I took you through my day. We traveled together and it was a really fun time. Now, it was very awkward for me to be on camera like that. It was the first time I had ever done anything like that. And this video really explains to you why it was so awkward for me. And I feel like we need to really have this conversation. This is me connecting with you. In order for us to really be connected here, I need to be honest about some of the struggles that I've had in my life because we all have them. So I'm going to tell you a personal story. And in order to really get the essence of the story, I enlisted the help of our two daughters, Kyla and Kaya. They're gifted illustrators. Kyla's 17 and Kaya's 14. And God has just graced them to draw. I mean, it's incredible. And so I told them I wanted to tell my story of when I was a little girl and if they would help me. Have you ever seen the videos on YouTube where people say they draw my life, they draw my life, those kind of videos? Well, I don't feel comfortable drawing my life. I don't really think you would want to see that. So I asked the girls to help me out. And so you might see me looking down. I just want to make sure that I get the photos or the pictures, the drawings in order so that I can show them to you and just sort of describe what happened to me. I hope this story helps you because certainly it is therapeutic for me. All right, here we go. It all started when I was a 6-year-old girl. I was on my way to school one day and school was right around the corner from my house. So I used to walk to school in my favorite red little coat in the wintertime. And I remember on this particular day, I was so happy that it snowed. I loved the snow then and I love the snow now. I was on Leroy Avenue in the city of Buffalo, heading to school number 61. That was my school. Just crunching around in the snow, not a care in the world. Other folks were walking around with their children. Some kids were with their parents and other children were alone. And so that was my routine. I just loved walking to school and enjoying myself. And so my red coat, it was missing a few buttons. In my family, we were rich in love, but not in a whole lot of other things. And so my mom used to pin my coat closed where I didn't have any buttons. And so when I saw a neighbor, he was also the father of a school friend. I knew her from school. And so he called out to me. It was cold out there and his face was friendly because mom and dad did teach me never talk to strangers, but he certainly wasn't a stranger. And so when he called out to me and talked to me about it being cold and him wanting to help fix my coat, I thought nothing of it. So he told me, hey, you're going to be cold. And when he said that, he seemed genuinely concerned, but not just that, he seemed sort of bothered that my coat was, he said he needed to fix it. And so like that my coat wasn't on appropriately or something, that seemed to bug him. And I remember as a little girl, because he seemed like borderline upset and really aggravated, I felt like I really needed to listen to what he was saying to me. So I let him fix my coat. And then I soon learned that fixing my coat wasn't really what he wanted to do. So suddenly, him fixing my coat, he walked me away from the crowd a bit, and I was near this big Catholic church, and in broad daylight, he molested me. And I remember wondering if I had left my undergarments at home. Being just a 6-year-old innocent girl, I didn't understand how I felt his hands in this place that mom said nobody was supposed to touch. And I won't go into all of the details of it, but it was very confusing for me and very traumatic. And so I remember when he finished pleasuring himself and doing what he wanted to do. I was confused about it. And he did not say, "Don't tell," but instead he went into his pocket and pulled out a handful of change, quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies, and took this heap of change. And then he put the change in my hand. And I don't know how I understood at that age that it was hush money, to be quiet, but I knew what he was doing was wrong. And he walked away. And I think I was so disappointed with myself because I didn't say anything. But when he walked away, I remember I took all of that change and I stumped it in the snow. I threw it all in the snow and I stumped it as much as I could because I did not want to be an accomplice in what he did to me. It just devastated me, but I also was so angry, and I don't know how long I must have stumped that change in the snow, but I stumped and stumped. It was like I was trying to stomp and bury the ugliness of what he did to me. And I remember I ran all the way to school and I didn't look back. It was like I was trying to run away from what happened. And when I got to school, I just felt different. And I mean, that might seem obvious after being sexually molested, being assaulted by a neighbor as a 6-year-old, but I felt different internally. It was like all of my joy was just sucked out of me in that instant. My joy was gone. I used to be such a happy little girl. And so I remember that day in school, I went to class and I was so upset that I just cried. I cried. It was around lunchtime. I didn't tell anybody what had happened to me, but I just remember crying. It was during recess when all of the children were playing, but I just could not find my joy. I couldn't find that happiness. The toys that I used to love to play with, I didn't want to play. I was broken. My heart was broken. He broke my spirit. And I remember my teacher asking me what's wrong, and I just kept hollering out, "I want my mom, I want my mom." And even after I got home, I didn't tell my mom what happened. I tried to act like everything was normal, but I was different. And every day, my mom remembers, every day at around the same time, I broke down crying and it was uncontrollable every day. And my teacher didn't know what was wrong with me, but I developed anxiety and I was afraid to be away from my mom. I had changed, and that happy, jovial little girl turned into this fearful, anxious girl. I was nervous. I didn't trust people. I used to love to sing. I remember when I was 4 years old, I did my first concert and I was on stage and I loved singing songs for Jesus. I loved it. But all of the things that I loved, I no longer loved anymore. I remember when I had to sing a song at church, the very first time I had to sing after this incident, and I had a full-on meltdown panic attack. Nobody understood what was wrong with me. I remember I sobbed and I wailed, and the adults were trying to say, "Well, do you want some candy?" They gave me candy. They tried to calm me because I had always loved to sing. But not that day. Because I didn't want anybody to look at me. Because looking at me meant I was vulnerable. And if I could hide, I was safe. Visibility and vulnerability became the same thing to me. And so hiding felt comfortable. And that went on for years and years and years. And then I grew to become an adult, but I didn't grow out of it. I was still very, very, very afraid. And I remember there were days when I would be by myself and I would still remember what he did. And even though I would be smiling and out and about, inside, this is how I felt in the presence of people. I just wanted to be left alone because the one man who I thought that I could trust, he violated me, and so it wasn't safe for me to be in the presence of people. I was so broken. And I would do my makeup and I would do my hair and put on my pearl earrings and my cardigan, one of my favorite things to wear, and feel sad and broken inside. And so even though God has called me to do certain things, these are eyes. You see all of those eyes looking at me? Oh, it made me so uncomfortable and it gave me anxiety. And I felt like, God, if you called me to be out front, I'm a speaker, I'm a singer, I'm an author, an educator, a mentor. If you called me to do all these things that require eyes to be on me, why do I have to go through this? It was so challenging for me. It was difficult. I just wanted people to stop looking at me, let me hide, because anonymity was safety. But I wasn't called to be anonymous. God had called me to do more. And so as he developed my gifts, more and more, those gifts required me to be on stage, always with a microphone. Whether I was singing, I had to be mic'd. If I was ministering a sermon, I had to be mic'd. If I was presenting a workshop, I had to be mic'd. If I had to host or MC an event, people would call me for that. I had to be mic'd, and I didn't want to be mic'd. I wanted to hide. The audience terrified me. And there on the stage, I remember my knees would be knocking and I would pray, God, please don't let anyone see my knees shaking. And still to this day, sometimes when I'm on stage, my knees shake. But my hope and my confidence is in God alone. So even with shaky knees, I have to do what I'm called to do. I remember I went through different phases, and here you'll notice that my daughter depicted me with brown hair. I started dyeing my hair. I tried to jazz up my look. I tried to change what I was feeling inside by becoming a little snazzier and cooler and hipper on the outside. But everything that I tried didn't change what I felt inwardly. I was scared to death. And I knew that God had not given us the spirit of fear. I knew that. So why could I not break free of my fear? So there I was, Evangelist Hobbs, as some people call me, all the things that they knew me for, with a big bright smile, seemingly outgoing, terrified for people to look at me. And I was like, God, I need you to deliver me. I remember crying out to the Lord, God, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be broken. I need you to heal me. And so here's what I had to do. I had to face and confront what happened to me. So my camera died in the middle of what I was saying, but I remember being in this video for a Christian rapper named Jason, and it's called Secrets. And I had to portray his wife, and I had to go back to that dark space where I was violated, and I wept so bitterly. They had to break up the set. I had to stop. I remember being in the bathroom in the fetal position, rocking myself and crying because the woman on set was playing a therapist, and I had never been to therapy. And she said, it's not your fault. And when she said that, I crumbled, and just this well in my soul, it just rose to the top, and out came all of those emotions. And I'm gonna put a link to the video in the description box. I want you to watch Secrets because I wasn't acting. Every tear was real, but that really began my process of dealing with what was going on with me. I had made strides, but that really accelerated the process. And so after I went through that, I remember about a year ago, I went natural. I cut off all my hair, did the big chop, and I said, I'm just gonna start fresh. And now my hair is really, really growing. Maybe one day I'll do a length check for you, but it was the best thing that I've ever done. I started dealing with my pain. I mean, sometimes I was in the floor, just crying and sobbing. it was hard, but it was also good for me. And so I've been doing things now that are uncomfortable, but it is me knowing that God hasn't given me the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So he's been calling me to do all sorts of things, and I've been doing them. The new A-list that our daughter illustrated here was the first time that I talked about what happened to me when I was 6 in a book. I wrote about it. That process was painful. It was a book on abstinence, but I talked about how my history really impacted me and how all of our history has an impact on us and our habits and our patterns and our behaviors. And then you see a microphone because I refused to stop talking. I started talking about what happened to me. I actually launched a national campaign, and it was a real blessing to many women. And then you see me with this camera, and my daughter really captured that. In the camera, curly-haired natural mom vlogging, because this is another step in my journey to be whole. I refuse to be afraid, and this is me saying I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not hiding anymore. And she drew this gray beanie. It's one of my favorite things to wear. I don't have it on now because it's kind of warm, but I wear my beanie and my curly hair, and I feel like a new person. And I'm not struggling in the same ways that I used to be. God has truly set me free. And so whenever you come to my YouTube channel and you turn on a video, it's not just me acting silly, even though I may be doing that. This is me saying, I will not be that girl. I'm not that 6-year-old girl in the red coat anymore. I am delivered and I am free, because whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And so this little girl can finally rest. She can finally rest. And now I can play in the snow again and be carefree and have that smile that I had before. I don't know what you've been through as you're watching this. Maybe you too have been molested or raped or dealt with incest, or have been through a broken relationship or loss of some sort, or just something that really broke you down and you don't know how to move forward. Well, a reluctant vlogger named Dianna Hobbs is telling you that there is freedom in Christ. Love you guys.
Love you too.